Hello and good morning. Today is Mother's Day. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today's 9:19 a.m. and happy Mother's Day to all those mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day to any expectant parents out there. And today I am reading The Emotionally Intelligent Leader by Daniel Goleman, and I'm actually reading where I left off last time, and I believe that was at the self-awareness segment on page 19. So, self-awareness. Self-awareness is the first component of emotional intelligence, which makes sense when one considers that Delphic oracle gave the advice to know thyself thousands of years ago. Self-awareness means having a deep understanding of one's emotions, strengths, weaknesses, needs, and drives. People with strong self-awareness are neither overly critical nor unrealistically hopeful. Rather, they are honest with themselves and others. People who have a high degree of self-awareness recognize how their feelings affect them, other people, and their job performance. Thus, a self-aware person Thus, a self-aware person who knows that tight deadlines bring out the worst in him plans his time carefully and gets work done well in advance. Another person with high self-awareness will be able to work with a demanding client. She will understand the client's impact on her moods and the deeper reasons for her frustration. Their trivial demands take us away from the real work that needs to be done. She might explain, and she will go one step further and turn her anger into something constructive. Self-awareness extends to a person's understanding of his or her values and goals. Someone who is highly self-aware knows where he is headed and why. So, for example, he will be able to be firm in turning down a job offer that is tempting financially but does not fit with his principles or long-term goals. A person who lacks self-awareness is apt to make decisions that bring on inner turmoil by treading on buried values. The money looked good, so I signed on. Someone might say 2 years into a job, but the work means so little to me that I'm constantly bored. The decisions of self-aware people mesh with their values. Consequently, they often find work to be energizing. How can one recognize self-awareness? First and foremost, it shows itself as candor and an ability to assess oneself realistically. People with high self-awareness are able to speak accurately and openly, although not necessarily effusively or confessionally, about their emotions and the impact they have on their work. For instance, one manager I know of was skeptical about a new personal shopper service that her company, a major department store chain, was about to introduce. Without prompting from her team or her boss, she offered them an explanation. "It's hard for me to get behind the rollout of this service," she admitted, "because I really wanted to run the project, but I wasn't selected. Bear with me while I deal with that." The manager did indeed examine her feelings. A week later, she was supporting the project fully. Such self-knowledge often shows itself in the hiring process. Ask a candidate to describe a time he got carried away by his feelings and did something he later regretted. Self-aware candidates will be frank in admitting to failure and will often tell their tales with a smile. One of the hallmarks of self-awareness is a self-deprecating sense of humor. Self-awareness can also be identified during performance reviews. Self-aware people know and are comfortable talking about their limitations and strengths, and they often demonstrate a thirst for constructive criticism. By contrast, people with low self-awareness interpret the message that they need to improve as a threat or a sign of failure. Self-aware people can also be recognized by their self-confidence. They have a firm grasp of their capabilities and are less likely to set themselves up to fail by, for example, overstretching on assignments. They know, too, when to ask for help, and the risks they take on the job are calculated. They won't ask for a challenge that they know they can't handle alone. they'll play to their strengths. Consider the actions of a mid-level employee who was invited to sit in on a strategy meeting with their company's top executives. Although she was the most junior person in the room, she did not sit there quietly, listening in awestruck or fearful silence. She knew she had a head for clear logic and the skill to present ideas persuasively, and she offered cogent suggestions about the company's strategy. At the same time, her self-awareness stopped her from wandering into territory where she knew she was weak. Despite the value of having self-aware people in the workplace, my research indicates that senior executives don't often give self-awareness the credit it deserves when they look for potential leaders. Many executives mistake candor about feelings for wimpiness and fail to give due respect to employees who openly acknowledge their shortcomings. Such people are too readily dismissed as not tough enough to lead others. In fact, the opposite is true. In the first place, people generally admire and respect candor. Furthermore, leaders are constantly required to make judgment calls that require a candid assessment of capabilities, their own and those of others. Do we have the management expertise to acquire a competitor? Can we launch a new product within 6 months? People who assess themselves honestly, that is, self-aware people, are well suited to do the same for the organizations they run. Self-regulation. Biological impulses drive our emotions. We cannot do away with them, but we can do much to manage them. Self-regulation is like an ongoing inner conversation. It is the component of emotional intelligence that frees us from being prisoners of our feelings. People engaged in such a conversation feel bad moods and emotional impulses just as everyone else does, but they find ways to control them and even to channel them in useful ways. Imagine an executive who has just watched a team of his employees present a botched analysis to the company's board of directors. In the gloom that follows, the executive might find himself tempted to pound on the table in anger or kick over a chair. He could leap up and scream at the group, or he might maintain a grim silence, glaring at everyone before stalking off. But if he had a gift for self-regulation, he would choose a different approach. He would pick his words carefully, acknowledging the team's poor performance without rushing to any hasty judgment. He would then step back to consider the reasons for the failure. Are they personal? A lack of effort? Are there any mitigating factors? What was his role in the debacle? After considering these questions, he would call the team together, lay out the incident's consequences, and offer his feelings about it. He would then present his analysis of the problem and the well-considered solution. Why does self-regulation matter so much for leaders? First of all, people who are in control of their feelings and impulses, that is, people who are reasonable, are able to create an environment of trust and fairness. In such an environment, politics and infighting are sharply reduced, and productivity is high. Talented people flock to the organization and aren't tempted to leave, and self-regulation has a trickle-down effect. No one wants to be known as a hothead when the boss is known for her calm approach. Fewer bad moods at the top mean fewer throughout the organization. Second, self-regulation is important for competitive reasons. Everyone knows that business today is rife with ambiguity and change. Companies merge and break apart regularly. Technology transforms work at a dizzying pace. People who have mastered their emotions are able to roll with the changes. When a new program is announced, they don't panic. Instead, they are able to suspend judgment, seek out information, and listen to the executives as they explain the new program. As the initiative moves forward, these people are able to move with it. Sometimes they even lead the way. Consider the case of a manager at a large manufacturing company. Like her colleagues, she had used a certain software program for 5 years. The program drove how she collected and reported data, and how she thought about the company's strategy. One day, senior executives announced that a new program was to be installed that would radically change how information gathered and assessed within the organization. While many people in the company complained bitterly about how disruptive the change would be, the manager mulled over the reasons for the new program and was convinced of its potential to improve performance. She eagerly attended training sessions. Some of her colleagues refused to do so and was eventually promoted to run several divisions, in part because she used the new technology so effectively. I want to push the importance of self-regulation to leadership even further and make the case that it enhances integrity, which is not only a personal virtue but also an organizational strength. Many of the bad things that happen in companies are a function of impulsive behavior. People rarely plan to exaggerate profits, pad expense, accounts dip into the till, or abuse power for selfish ends. Instead, an opportunity presents itself, and people with low impulse control just say yes. By contrast, consider the behavior of the senior executive at a large food company. The executive was scrupulously honest in his negotiations with local distributors, a realistic understanding of the company's pricing. This approach meant that the executive couldn't always drive a hard bargain. Now, on occasion, he felt the urge to increase profits by withholding information about the company's cost, but he challenged that impulse. He saw that it made more sense in the long run to counteract it. His emotional self-regulation paid off in strong, lasting relationships with distributors that benefited the company more than any short-term financial gains would have. The signs of emotional self-regulation, therefore, are easy to see: a propensity for reflection and thoughtfulness, comfort with ambiguity and change, and integrity, an ability to say no to impulsive urges. Like self-awareness, self-regulation often does not get its due. People who can master their emotions are sometimes seen as cold fish. Their considered responses are taken as a lack of passion. People with fiery temperaments are frequently thought of as classic leaders. Their outbursts, considered hallmarks of charisma and power, but when such people make it to the top, their impulsiveness often works against them. In my research, extreme displays of negative emotion have never emerged as a driver of good leadership. Motivation. Okay, I'm just gonna stop here because we're about to go do our Mother's Day things, and my beautiful daughter painted my I'm not a horse. Nay. I'm just kidding. My beautiful daughter painted my nails, and the polish is peeling off. So I'm about to go spend Mother's Day with my beautiful daughter. It is raining. It's sprinkling a bit, but we're probably gonna have a picnic or something fun like that, and we're going to hang out and enjoy Mother's Day. So it's May 12th, 2024, and happy Mother's Day. It's a little bit after 10 a.m. Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. Stay safe, and hugs and kisses. XOXOXO. Make sure to view more videos on our channels. Send us some more views. Keep them rolling so we can become one of the most viewed YouTube channels in YouTube history. So, hugs and kisses. XOXO, and peace out.